The war between Ukraine and Russia has entered its third relentless year. What began as a shock invasion in early 2022 is now a grinding conflict that's redrawing not just Europe's borders, but the entire global balance of power. When the first Russian columns crossed the border, the world reacted in disbelief. Air raid sirens, refugees fleeing west, and headlines declaring a new era of war in Europe. Within weeks, Western nations rallied behind Kyiv. Billions in aid, sanctions, and weapons flowed across borders. HIMARS rockets that lit up the night sky, Patriot missiles intercepting Russian strikes, and satellite intelligence guiding every counterattack. For a moment, it felt like history might repeat itself, a smaller nation defying a giant and winning against the odds. But wars rarely stay romantic for long. By the second year, the front lines froze. Cities like Bakhmut and Avdiivka became names of endless trench battles, measured in meters gained and thousands of lives lost. And slowly, the optimism began to fade. The United States alone has poured more than $175 billion into supporting Ukraine. Weapons, ammunition, and direct financial aid to keep its government running. The European Union has sent tens of billions more, along with promises of future security guarantees. Yet the map barely changed. The dream of quickly pushing Russian troops back to the 2014 borders has collided with the brutal mathematics of modern warfare. This is now where experts call a war of attrition, not about swift victories, but who can last longer. And in this kind of war, economics matter as much as soldiers. Inside Russia, Western sanctions were meant to cripple the economy. Instead, Moscow redirected trade eastward to China, India, and the Middle East. Oil is sold through back channels, factories run day and night, and new alliances quietly replace old ones. The ruble may be weaker, but the war machine still runs. Meanwhile, Ukraine fights on sheer willpower. Entire industries have shifted underground. Women have replaced men in offices. Men have replaced machines on the front. Every victory comes at a staggering human cost. And far from the battlefield, a new struggle is unfolding: aid fatigue. In Washington, political divides widen. Supporters call it a fight for democracy. Critics ask why billions keep flowing overseas while domestic crises grow at home. In Brussels, leaders face similar pressure from rising energy prices and weary voters. The question whispered in every capital is the same: how long can we sustain this? For the West, Ukraine has become a symbol of resistance, freedom, and moral clarity. But maintaining that symbol costs real money, and public attention is fading. News cycles move on. Wars in Gaza, tensions in Taiwan, and elections everywhere compete for headlines. Russia knows this. Its strategy now is patience, stretching the conflict until Western unity cracks. If Ukraine's allies hesitate even for a season, the momentum could shift decisively. And beyond the politics lies the human cost. Millions of Ukrainians displaced, entire towns reduced to rubble, generations growing up with sirens instead of school bells. For them, this war isn't about geopolitics. It's about survival. For NATO, the war is a balancing act. Support Ukraine enough to keep it alive, but not so much that it provokes a direct clash with Moscow, a nuclear power still holding thousands of warheads. Every weapon shipment, every sanction, every diplomatic statement is part of that razor-thin calculation. Too little, Ukraine collapses. Too much, and the world risks something far worse. And so the war drags on, a test of endurance, of economies, and of human resolve. History shows that great powers rarely lose wars of patience. But this conflict is rewriting the rules. Information warfare, drones, cyber attacks, and economic blackmail have become as decisive as tanks and artillery. The future of Ukraine will depend on more than courage. It will depend on who runs out of strength first: the soldiers in the trenches, the treasuries funding them, or the voters who decide to keep caring. Because wars like this don't end with a peace treaty. They fade, slowly, until one side can no longer afford to fight, and the world quietly moves on to the next crisis. When that moment comes, historians will look back and ask, did the world stand firm for its principles, or did it simply grow tired of defending them?